Hey, it's Andrew Greif of The Oregonian with John Canzano of The Oregonian. We just witnessed Oregon's 31-14 loss to UCLA, third straight loss for the Ducks, and fourth in their last 5 games. I feel like watching these games has become watching Groundhog Day, where the offense is predictable, the defense tries its best, comes up with some stops, but ultimately doesn't have the kind of depth to sustain 4 quarters of stops. Special teams isn't that great. People are questioning play calling, and ultimately it's a double-digit loss. What positives do you come away with from this?
Well, first let's go back to the people that are if you're questioning play calling, it's like you're watching a Laverne and Shirley episode, but Laverne's not present, and you're blaming Shirley for the script. I mean, Willie Taggart doesn't have a quarterback. He's got a guy who completes passes worth 74 yards. When they drive, they take 15 plays to get down the field, and they're not disciplined enough, not structured enough, don't have the playmakers. And I don't think that's a fair criticism. Look, I'll be the first to say it when I don't see imagination. I don't see adjustment from Willie Taggart in the second half of games. I've seen that all year where they just haven't been a great second half team. But don't blame him for the play calling. He's playing with a quarterback who can't play, can't throw the football. They're very predictable.
Considering that, and considering there's little faith in the offense, I was surprised that Oregon fought back from a 14-0 hole and tied the game by halftime. But even then, that success seemed like fool's gold to me, because there were 15-play drives that required UCLA to commit some silly penalties to even keep them going. Burmeister looks good when he's running, but you can't sustain that, and you saw in the second half that surely enough they weren't able to kind of even come close to playing that way in the second half.
They just don't have a guy, that can make the big play. And if you're a defense and you're gaming for the Ducks, all you have to do is say, look, Royce Freeman's going to get his yards, but we're going to make him do it on 29 carries instead of 18 carries. And I went back to Royce Freeman's freshman year where Oregon had all sorts of weapons and Marcus Mariota in the backfield, and he had 18 carries for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns against UCLA. You don't have that luxury. Royce Freeman has to have a 200-yard-plus day. And for people out there that are crying about Darren Carrington not being part of this offense, if Darren Carrington were here, he would be bitching about not getting the football, and he'd probably be suspended for it because he would just be a major distraction. You can't get your receiver a football, and I think Charles Nelson had 4 catches for 40 yards, and that's your leading receiver.
And Dylan Mitchell was basically non-existent. I mean, you have these receivers back there, but it's hard to get them the ball at this point. Moving forward, Oregon needs 2 more wins for bowl eligibility. That's the big picture thing here. Do you think they get it? Arizona looks really good all of a sudden. Khalil Tate, Oregon State, that program seems to be in disarray, but I don't know where they get those 2 wins at this point.
I'm going to steal what the players were saying afterwards. Royce Freeman asked him, do you need a bowl game? Do you need all this for your legacy? And he was focused on, can they beat Utah next week? And that's a key game for them because Utah didn't look good this last week against Arizona. So what I think has to happen for Oregon to get bowl eligible is obviously they're going to have to raise their level of play a little bit, and they're going to have the opponent play down a little bit, and they're going to have to find them in the middle, meet them in the middle. So this Utah game becomes really important. The Civil War at the end of the year, I mean, flip a coin right now unless they get Justin Herbert back, and that's the big question. I mean, I know you're focused on that. Can Herbert get back, and how soon?
And I asked Willie Taggart that tonight, and he said, I don't know, I have no idea, but I sure hope so. And I asked him if it was a realistic possibility for Herbert being back for Utah. Let's end with this real quick. We're 3.5 minutes in. We haven't even talked about Royce Freeman setting the Oregon school record for rushing yards, passing LaMichael James, 5,103 yards, I believe, at this point. Any way you break it, it's an impressive mark, and yet after the game, he really didn't seem like that was on his mind. He's more focused on what's going on right now.
No big deal. And the UCLA players, I was standing with Royce Freeman on the field at the end of the game, and the UCLA defensive players were coming up, the juniors and seniors. And it was like a wedding procession. I mean, it was like the reception line at a wedding where they're all greeting him and wishing him well. And at the end of it, he just had this kind of sobering feeling about it because I don't think he's going to call his teammates out, and I think everybody knows it's not his fault. But he needs some help. And if you're a Ducks teammate and you're watching this, get him some help. He deserves to go out better. Joey Harrington had a Fiesta Bowl. Marcus Mariota had a Heisman Trophy in a national championship game. Give the guy again. LaMichael James even had a Rose Bowl. Give Royce Freeman a parting gift. And you know what? He may throw it back like Christian McCaffrey. He may say, hey, I don't want to play in this game. But at least give him the option.
I'll end with this. When an Oregon offensive lineman was asked about Royce's record, he said, that's the one good thing you can take from this game. It was nice to get him, but we really wish we could get it in a win. It's going to be tough to get any more wins from here on out if they're playing like they are today. Oregon's back next week against Utah in Autzen Stadium.